There is a major misconception about Super Saiyan Goku on Namek, and whatever you thought his strength or his power level was, let's just say it was a lot higher than you probably thought. And when we think about Super Saiyan Goku on Namek and go back to those classic old power scaling lists, we can actually see that the most common numbers that we see for Goku is that as a Super Saiyan, Goku was at 150 million and Frieza was at 120 million, making Goku 30 million power level points above Frieza. Now, the interesting thing about all of this is that when you actually take into account how the battle was actually unfolding, this was actually a significant underscale for how strong Goku actually was, theoretically, even at this time. And the first thing that you would obviously have to notice is that Goku was severely battle fatigued. And the interesting thing about Goku turning into a Super Saiyan is that this is actually extremely similar to what we see in the Saiyan arc when Vegeta turns into a Great Ape. And when you look at it from Vegeta's perspective in the Saiyan saga, Vegeta was badly damaged by Goku. He had just gotten hit by his Kaioken Kamehameha. And then when you look at it later on with Gohan, Gohan was completely immobile on the ground, but when he turns into a Great Ape, it's like the adrenaline rush from turning into a Great Ape just completely ignores whatever damage the character has, and they can continue fighting. It's kind of weird, it's kind of like healing through adrenaline in a way. And the way that we look at this from Goku's battle against Frieza is that it's actually extremely similar. If you remember, right before Goku turned into a Super Saiyan, Goku was completely immobile. Goku was so banged up from fighting Frieza in his base form in his Kaioken state that he couldn't even move, and he needed the assistance of his friends just to get around. But when Frieza came back and he killed Krillin and Goku transformed into a Super Saiyan, it's like the adrenaline rush that he received from turning into a Super Saiyan completely bypassed the fact that Goku could barely walk just a few moments before this. Now, when we compare Goku to Frieza, we also have to point out that Frieza too was also theoretically a lot stronger than what he thought he was, because Frieza himself also took battle damage, but the level of battle damage that Frieza took was so insignificant compared to what Goku took. I mean, if you think about it literally, Frieza never took that much serious damage to the point where it was legitimately threatening his life until he really got hit by the Spirit Bomb. Yeah, you'll have moments where Piccolo and Vegeta and Krillin might get a blow here or there, but that was never anything serious compared to what he felt until he actually got hit by the Spirit Bomb. Even though we can also say that Frieza was underscaled, he was definitely closer to what people think than Goku was. And considering the fact that Frieza was holding back on Namek the entire time, it's also something else we have to take into account, because if Frieza had got 100% in his final form from the very beginning, then none of our characters would have ever stood a chance. But what we also have to understand about Super Saiyan Goku on Namek 2 is that the training that Goku got on Yardrat seems to be more focused on actually perfecting the art of instant transmission, because in terms of actual training, obviously Goku would train on Yardrat, and we're not trying to deny that he did get stronger, but the type of training that he received would be very interesting to know, because how would Goku get that much stronger on Yardrat? When you think about it, they don't really have any gravity chamber room that we are aware of, and from what we would probably guess, the inhabitants on Yardrat aren't really strong enough to push Goku into getting a significantly greater power boost. So, this ultimately leaves us to another major conclusion about why Goku got a lot stronger when he came back to Earth years later. And this takes us directly back to the classic Zenkai boost. Now, the thing is that during the Namek arc, Zenkai boosts were rampant. They were everywhere, and Toriyama needed a way for Saiyans to get stronger without obviously having the ability to train, because they had to get creative because there were really no opportunities to train on planet Namek. And as a result of it, the Zenkai boost was an extremely effective story tool to get Saiyan stronger. And even though Zenkai boosts were essentially written off in the story, or shall we say just not mentioned throughout the story, we didn't really hear about Zenkai boosts until much later on, until Cell basically talked about the Zenkai boost that he received when he turned into quote-unquote Super Perfect Cell. But when we look at Goku, there's no better moment to believe that the Zenkai boost that Goku would have gotten from fighting on planet Namek would have given him a significant boost compared to where he was before. Even if it wasn't mentioned, it would have been a theoretical boost that would have given him a significant boost in power that would have made him noticeably stronger than he was before. And all of this explains exactly why in the future timeline, as Trunks states, Goku was the one who originally killed Mecha Frieza and King Cold. And if Frieza got any boost from becoming quote-unquote Mecha Frieza, it would actually make perfect sense why Goku would be able to defeat him and King Cold, because not only did he get a massive Zenkai boost, but then you also have to factor in that Goku would have also been closer to his full theoretical strength because he would have been fresh going into the fight instead of being significantly battle damaged the way that he was on planet Namek. And it is easy to believe that it's very, very possible that with Goku's fresh strength, he may have even been able to fight against Frieza and King Cold as a regular Super Saiyan the way he was on Namek, but we would have never have known because the battle damage that he took obviously weakened him and he wasn't able to fully fight at his full power. So in a lot of ways, we can prove that Goku was far stronger than Frieza on planet Namek than we actually already thought. And the reason why the fight was so competitive was really because Goku was so severely battle damaged before the fight even began as a Super Saiyan. Now, King Cold is obviously a weird case because there are those out there who believe that King Cold is in his second form because he resembles Frieza's second form. Because of this, a lot of people believe that theoretically, King Cold would have been able to turn into the third form and the fourth form that we saw Frieza do on planet Namek, considering the fact that they're related. And if King Cold was able to do this, then that would have meant that all of our heroes would have been busted. But considering the fact that King Cold was put in a position where he knew he absolutely stood no chance and he was begging for the Saiyan to basically give him mercy, specifically with Trunks, and probably in the future timeline, because King Cold probably tried to do the same thing in the future timeline too, that would mean that if he's resorting to begging, he clearly didn't have any tricks up his sleeve. And maybe it was just a design choice as to why King Cold resembles the second form, but that truly probably was his actual strength, and as a result of this, he wasn't stronger than what we saw. And the interesting thing is that when Goku had that brief little test from Trunks, both characters were obviously holding back, and Goku was blocking Trunks' sword with the finger. But what we also have to remember is that even though Goku wasn't stronger than the androids at this point, he was strong enough that it gave Trunks hope that if this guy trains and prepares for 3 years, he'll be able to fight against the android threat. Now obviously Trunks doesn't have the best accurate representation to how strong the androids were because he felt that he was somewhat holding his own against them. But it could be a situation where, in the present timeline, maybe the androids weren't really that much stronger than the future counterparts, and the future counterparts were just significantly holding back against Trunks because he was the only form of entertainment that they had, and this entire time Trunks had a misperception of how strong the androids actually were. And this actually ties directly into future Gohan, who had a misperception about how strong Android 17 was. 17 was holding back so badly against Gohan that Gohan this whole time thought that he had at least approximated some of his power, and 17 said, I didn't even use half of my power the last time we fought, and Gohan died without 17 even needing 18 to jump in, which is very different from the anime adaptation. And if all of this is true, that just would have meant that Trunks' gauge of where the androids are was completely off. But in terms of power scaling, we would also have to consider how strong Trunks and future Gohan were relative to what Goku was when he came back to Earth. Future Gohan made a statement that he wished he was as strong as Goku was before he died. That statement in itself essentially means that future Gohan felt in himself that he was weaker than what Goku was before Goku died, and this would have been a Goku that had already gotten stronger after killing Frieza and King Cold several years later. But the thing that we have to remember about Trunks is that Bulma made a statement that we could take with a grain of salt, that Trunks had approximated Gohan's power over the course of these years, and Trunks felt confident that he could fight against the androids, so at least he felt that he was somewhat comparable. But what you have to understand is, theoretically, if we go back to Zenkai boosts all over again, right before Trunks goes back to the past, just like Samurai Jack, we could actually see that he was in the hospital after the androids beat him up, and this would have also been another theoretical Zenkai boost that would have taken Trunks a while to recover from, because there was no senzu beans at this point. And the crazy thing about all of this is that even though Trunks probably would have been able to defeat Frieza anyways, the androids beating the living hell out of Trunks right before he went back to the past might be one of the greatest things they ever did for Trunks, because it made Trunks a lot stronger than what he would have theoretically been having to fight Frieza without the Zenkai boost. So in comparison to future Gohan, we can say with confidence that by the time Trunks had gone back to the past, he had surpassed future Gohan in power because of the fact that he had gotten that Zenkai boost, and that's why his power would have been a lot closer to Yardrat Goku than future Gohan's was.